Welcome back to our program. We're talking about the transportation sales tax program and specifically about a department with Charleston County called the Transportation Development Department. And these are the folks that are responsible for seeing to it that the transportation sales tax dollars are spent wisely, and just as important, that we make sure that we're building the kinds of roads and bridges and intersections and all of those things that are necessary to make sure that our community is ready for not only now, but the future of travel. And Steve Thigpen is with me today, and he is Director of Transportation Development, as I mentioned. And we already talked to the Chairman Summey, and he talked about the fact that we needed to continue to do the work that we're doing. The bonding, he says, was good, and he also talked about the fact that we don't quite have the relationship in Columbia that we once had in terms of leadership. But we're still doing the work, and that's what he seems to be very proud about, and we have done a lot. What is transportation development exactly? What do you all do in the way of spending the transportation sales tax dollars and making choices about what we should use those dollars for?
The Transportation Development Department was created by County Council to administer the funds generated from the half-cent sales tax. What my department does is as everyone knows, there was a list of bonded projects listed in the referendums that specifically spelled out exactly what those projects would be, some of the projects we would accomplish during the life of the program. We are nearing the end of those 13 bonded projects. We have 8 complete, a couple of them under construction, and only 1 or 2 left to bid out. But my department we also administer what's called allocation funds. We take requests in from the municipalities, and we rank those and present a list to County Council for them to approve each and every year as part of the program.
You know, one of the things that you said that's very, very important here is this not just Charleston County government that's making these decisions, but we're calling on the various municipalities and the towns in our community, and their leadership and those residents are also having some input as to what projects we're going to do and complete.
Absolutely. No one knows, since we don't typically work in those municipalities, no one knows what their needs are better than their own staff and elected officials.
2004 was the year of the referendum, and then further information was provided to the public, and eventually they made a decision that we would have the half-cent sales tax.
Yes.
It sounds like from Chairman Summey, that we may have an additional sales tax. Is that really needed?
Yes, ma'am. There are still several unanswered infrastructure needs within Charleston County. As everyone has heard in the press recently, the DOT doesn't have funding available. They're trying to address that on their side. But on the local level, the local needs are very important, and no one can assess those needs better than the county and the municipalities.
Let's go into citizens' participation for a moment. That's my area and one that I enjoy doing with you all. The citizens of this community are constantly being given an opportunity to respond to the decisions that are made to build a road or to improve an intersection or whatever the project might be. How is that done?
For our larger projects, we go out and have public information meetings. We advertise it to the people that are most impacted along the project corridor, as well as general press releases announcing that we'll have if you're interested in the project or would like to provide input, come out to a certain school or church, or depending on where we can acquire the needed meeting space, and invite those people out to give their input that we can take into consideration while designing which aspects of the project will move forward.
Now, there's some information up on the screen right now about efforts that we've made to date. There have been a lot of projects that have been improved, or a lot of projects that have been done already. There have been a lot of public meetings. There have been lots of press releases given out. There have been project design and construction. All of those kinds of things are constantly in the mix, and they're constantly going on in this program. It seems sometimes like we're just in a flurry. We're getting a lot done in a short amount of time. I asked Chairman Summey about utilizing dollars that come from the federal government and from, I don't know, does the state participate in any way?
Mostly the money we've received is through the CHATS program here from the BCD COG, and most of that money is federal funds.
How do you determine whether or not you're going to need to do a project? Is there some way that you look at something that's going on, or is there some information that's gathered that says we need, this road is a priority or this intersection is a priority? How do you know that?
Typically, we for most projects we complete, we do a traffic study. That traffic study looks at existing traffic conditions and projects out a number of years what the future traffic needs will be for that intersection or a turn lane. Or if we have input that we need a sidewalk, we go out and we kind of notice if people are walking up and down the side of the road, is there a worn out path on the side of the road that would indicate there's a need for a sidewalk in that area. So those are the kind of things that we do.
We've had an opportunity to go out in the county to really, really rural areas, and roads are being built in these communities. Repaving is being done. Tell us about that.
Yes, we have a county-wide resurfacing program that the county has had since the mid-90s. That program takes the amount of funding that we have and prioritizes and evaluates each and every paved road in the county, each municipality, state secondary roads. So all that is put forth through a extensive program that kind of identifies which roads are in the most need and way we can stretch our money the furthest.
Now, if a citizen just contacts you and says, I want my road fixed because it's got all these potholes and all these kinds of things, can you respond to that directly?
Absolutely. We'll put him in touch with our pavement manager. That gentleman will look into the database. If there's some discrepancy with the database, he might actually take time to go out and look at the road. But we have photographs of every road in the county, and so we can pull up and look at every road, plus tell that citizen exactly how it rates on when we anticipate it may be resurfaced or fixed.
Maintenance seems to be an issue here, and I'm particularly interested in maintenance where it has to do with state roads. Are we responsible, is Charleston County Government responsible for maintaining state roads as well as their own county roads that are put in as a result of the transportation sales tax? Are we doing it all?
While we do work with resurfacing of the roadways, we do not do everyday maintenance of the road. That still falls within the DOT responsibilities, such as cleaning ditches, mowing the grass, that kind of stuff still falls within the DOT.
And so they take care of for the most part, they take care of their own roads. But those that are done by the county under the transportation sales tax program are maintained by the county.
The ones that are done by the county are typically still maintained by the DOT. We don't take over maintenance of the roads. For instance, but there are some exceptions to that, such as Palmetto Commerce Parkway that we did in North Charleston. It was a new roadway, and that road is currently being maintained by the city of North Charleston.
There have been a number of studies done over the years about road systems in the country, as well as in South Carolina, and of course I'm sure we've done that in Charleston County. Are we in that bad a shape, and which is the worst? Is it the bridges, or the large-scale roads, or the back roads, or the dirt roads? What's the issue? What's the big problem here?
Yes, to
all
of that. The DOT, the state has a huge problem with bridges that especially extends into Charleston County, which is mostly with the coastal areas. We have more bridges than most people do. So bridges they're expensive to replace. We do have the paved roads that have a lot of potholes. Even though we do have the transportation sales tax funds going to resurfacing, we're still not keeping up with the demand. So we're always looking for innovative ways to try to stretch our dollars, such as preventive maintenance, such as microsurfacing, or there's some special additives these days that we're trying in certain areas to try to stretch those dollars further.
I've heard of pervious paving, And I don't know what that is exactly, but I'm going to ask you, what is pervious paving and how does that benefit the community?
Pervious paving is basically a pavement or an asphalt where the water passes through it. On a typical roadway, if it rains, the water gathers on the roadway and runs over to the side of the road where it's collected in a ditch. In a pervious pavement, the water passes directly through the asphalt into the subgrade and is filtered out through that manner. So you don't really need all the permits and accommodations. You don't have to dig a ditch on the side of the road because the water's not collecting and running off.
Are the environmentalists concerned about that, or is it something for them to be concerned about?
I think they're in favor of the process because it doesn't create the runoff that you would necessarily see, and you're keeping any, let's just say, any pollutants that are on the roadway, at the roadway, and you're not running them down into the rivers to cause impacts onto the larger rivers or the salt marsh or anything of that nature.
Steve, what's the priority for your department right now? I mean, you've got roads and you've got bridges, you've got small projects with the intersections and paving and bicycle pathways. What's the priority here? Is all of the above?
All
Again,
of the above.
Is that right?
Our projects are spread out over 5 professional engineer project managers, and those project managers have their own areas of responsibility, and they all take every project that is assigned to them very important.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask about your staff, and there are a number of engineers, and they're very young and they're very smart that are involved, and you're at the leadership, and then you've got others who are there with you. Is this a time-consuming kind of work, or is it something that just goes on from day to day and you know what you've got to do so you get it done? And how do you make decisions on priorities that ought to be dealt with?
Well, we have, from a project standpoint, County Council identifies our priorities for us, but it's not just as each project is complex, regardless of the size. They're all about they're all important.
Right.
But you just don't go out there and pave a road anymore like we used to in the old days. In my time when I was managing projects, it takes upward to a year to get a permit out of some agencies to design the road and get the permits. So it's a time-consuming process.
And there's a lot of road out there.
Yes, ma'am.
A lot of intersections, a lot of pathways for bikes and joggers and all of those good things. Thank you so much for being a part of our program and educating us on the Transportation Sales Tax Program and on transportation development, the department that's responsible for that. We have a social media address that we want you to take a look at, and we want you to contact us if you have questions or comments about this program especially, and in general. And we hope that you've enjoyed this program as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. This has been the Transportation Sales Tax Program, Transportation Development Department's program. We hope that you've enjoyed it. Come back. We'll see you again soon.